welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about fairy tales. See, I have a soft spot in my heart. I just untied my clothes. Hang on. The pressure, people are watching. Okay, I have a very soft spot in my heart for fantasy. I grew up loving it. With all of this that I was ingesting, I decided to take a look at it now that I'm older and see what it is that I really learned from fairy tales. What life lessons have I unconsciously picked up and taken with me. This is some stuff that I've gotten out of fairy tales. For one thing, unrealistic marriage expectations. You know, you look someone in the eyes and then you're like, ah, that's my true love. I want to marry them and live happily ever after. We're never gonna fight. Like, literally, you just live happily for the rest of ever. Also, like, when you marry, you become immortal or something. I don't know. Another thing I learned is that guys fall in love for weird reasons. Like, okay, fine, I guess it was because of the identity of the person behind this characteristic, but, like, they were looking for the person with the tiniest feet, or, like, this person with this particular amazing singing voice. So, also, like, if you're good at singing, then everyone's gonna fall in love with you, obviously. I mean, and I guess it was because, like, they knew that that was the thing that belonged to the person that they fell in love with after knowing for, like, barely any time at all. Didn't even figure out their name. So it's still stupid. We also learned from Hansel and Gretel, don't take candy from strangers, people. Seriously. Also, like, from Goldilocks and Three Bears, she took their porridge and broke their house. And at least that turned out badly for her, so I'm happy about that. And then, like, Snow White. In the real story, like, she got tricked 3 times. Like the dwarf said, don't let anybody in the house or, like, talk to you. And then the queen came 3 times with in different disguises, offering her different things. And she took the things every single time, and the dwarves had to save her twice until she took an apple and died. So she honestly brought that on herself, and I don't feel much sympathy for her. We also learned from The Princess and the Pea that, like, wow, true royalty is insanely delicate. I wouldn't want that delicate of a person on the throne. Seriously, like, how do they even live life if they can't sleep because there's a pea under a billion mattresses? I don't get that. Why would you want to marry anyone like that? See, the guys have really strange qualities that they would like in a woman. I don't understand. Personal taste, I guess. I also learned the value of things. Salads are worth more than children. Beans are worth more than cows. Clearly. Also, you also learn that, like, step families are always evil. Step siblings and step parents. But then in Rapunzel, you know, you have your biological parents trading her for salad. Like, what's wrong with them? This baby that they've wanted for so long. And then they're just like, sure, we'll give her away for some salad. And then for, like, Jack and the Beanstalk, he traded a cow for these beans. That reminds me of, like, modern commercials, and they're like, oh, our product is what will make you the best you, or make your life the best life. Buy our thing. Like, that, it's like magical, it'll fix everything. You cannot be happy until you have this thing, but once you have it, you will magically be happy forever. Jack and the Beanstalk is like the fairy tale version of that. She's like, oh, look, these beans, you know, they're magical. You want them instead of your cow, right? See, because they're magic, and that's all you need to know. And he's like, oh, okay, like, if they were normal beans, like, yeah, that'd be stupid, but since this person said they're magical beans, yeah, I'll trade the only thing that I have left in the world for some magical beans. That sounds like a great idea. See, and what annoys me is that his stupidity paid off and he got rich in the end. That's not fair. I don't like that. We also learned that marrying off looks is the best, because honestly, they basically just all fell in love for looks. And they lived happily ever after. So, you know, honestly, maybe that must be all that matters. You really don't need to get to know anyone on a deeper level, apparently. And yeah, like the Princess and the Frog in the real thing, I don't exactly remember, but, like, she was being so mean to him. He was being really nice and just being like, just let me be with you. And eventually she, like, threw him against the wall because she got so fed up with him, and that's what turned him back into a prince. And then he married her. Like, you don't marry someone just because they're a princess and they're beautiful. Like, if she has a nasty person like that, if she threw you against the wall, like, don't marry them. Seriously, looks are not everything. Please, please. I mean, I guess apparently they are, because it must have worked out for them, but still, that does not sit well with me. And from the story of The Little Mermaid, we learn that it's a great idea to try to change literally everything about you for this random dude, then maybe he'll fall in love with you. You should do everything that you possibly can to make it work out with this random person you just fell in love with from a distance. Give up your entire identity. Try to become exactly like him. In the real story, like, she went through a lot of pain. Like, whenever she walked, it would feel like she was walking on knives. But then, like, he liked to see her dance, and so she would dance all the time for him, just to make him happy, when it felt like she was walking on swords the whole time. And then in the end, he'd married another girl, and she died and turned into sea foam. So I guess that kind of proves that, yeah, that's not a good idea, is you shouldn't do that. And lastly, I learned that, like, you know all those sickos who like to go around kissing apparently dead people? Those are the husband material, you know? Just taking a random stroll through the woods, you know? Oh, look, a dead body. I have to kiss it! In all fairness, though, I do really respect fantasy and fairy tales, and I do really enjoy them, and I feel like I have actually learned a lot from them, and there are some good things in there. One of the things that I really like is the distinction between good and evil. Like, it's very, at least in the old fairy tales, it's like very easy to tell who is bad and who is good. I also really appreciate seeing justice be served. Like, that was a very important element in fairy tales a lot. Sometimes it's a little bit gruesome, but, you know, the bad people did get what they deserved. Yeah, in the movies they don't do it exactly the same way the book did, because it's kind of disgusting sometimes, but, you know, that's okay. For the most part, the bad guys get what they deserve, and the good people do live happily ever after. One of the things I really like is how, yeah, like, the good people are rewarded for doing good things, and I feel like it's an element in multiple fairy tales. I can't really think of anything except for the one about the golden goose, but yeah, like people doing things for someone just because they're nice, and then that person turns out to be a fairy and she'll like grant them a wish and fix their life, you know. But it just reminds me of the parable of the sheep and the goats in Matthew 25. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you, a stranger, and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." So yeah, I really appreciate how like that's kind of shown in fairy tales of like they were just being nice to someone because they are a nice person and they believe that everyone should be treated nicely. That's how we should be going about. And then there's also that verse like you may be entertaining angels unaware, like you don't know. And yeah, God says that like anything we do for anyone else is like counted as doing it unto him. So like good and bad. So we should be treating everyone as if they were Jesus, or like even as if they were an angel in disguise, like, because you never know. And we are going to eternally be rewarded because his image is in other people. So in a way, like, they really are carrying him, whether they're saved or not. Like, they're still made in the image of God, and so everyone bears God's glory inside of them. And I want to respect that in people and treat them well simply because they're a reflection of my God and my King who I serve, who I love, and who I'm trying to please. I want to be treating him respectfully, and that includes being kind to other people just because they're made in his image. I also do really appreciate the thing of happily ever after. Like, if you take that expectation into life on earth, like, you're not gonna go good places, you know. But it's a really good reminder that that really is honestly how our story ends, is happily ever after. Our husband rescues us or comes back for us, and we go to live with him happily forever after we do live forever, and it is always happily. There is ultimately like a good ending, the best ending. And so I really appreciate that. A couple of stories that I specifically like are, I think Sleeping Beauty is one of my favorites. Tangled is like my favorite movie, but the story of Sleeping Beauty I really like, especially the way that Disney did it, actually, because I really liked how she was like betrothed to this prince that she'd never met before. She didn't know anything, just like she just knew that she was betrothed to him. Yeah, she fell under a curse and was asleep, so like basically dead, and then he fought the dragon, defeated, and won his way to her, and he kissed her and woke her up, and like when she looked at him, like she knew, like she'd never seen him before, but there was that moment of like she knew that that was her true love. Like she just could just see in his eyes, like this is the person. And it turned out, yeah, that was the person that she knew that she'd been promised to a long time ago. And yeah, they got married and lived happily ever after. But I really like that picture. You know, we hear God made us, we belong to him, like we're made for a relationship with him, whatever. I don't know, like even unsaved people hear that, know that people think that God made us and made us for a relationship with him and to live forever with him. But then, yeah, I really like that picture of him going and battling against the enemy just to be able to save us, and then he comes and he wakes us up and calls us to life, and like when we meet him, we have that moment of realizing, wait, yes, this is the one that I love. This is the one that I was destined for. Another story that I really like is Beauty and the Beast, because you can take this, again, two ways. So it's like, if you try to, in normal life, see this big bad person and be like, oh, well, it's totally okay because I'm going to save him. I'll be the one by my perfectness to make him perfect and redeem him, and then we'll live forever in bliss. Like, no, you can't save people. Yeah, but I think I've said this before, but I think that's especially a trap for girls, is like feeling like no, it's okay, like I'll be the one to fix him. And so they'll get into bad relationships just thinking that like from the goodness of their own heart, he'll love them enough that like he'll become a perfect little angel, like turn into this perfect mold that they want to stuff him into. And honestly, that's not really how it works. So yeah, if you take that expectation into real life, again, it does not go good places. But if you look at it kind of like in an eternal light, it is so true that love changes people. And when it's not our broken human love, when it's God's love inside of us, that really is what changes people. And yeah, just loving people with God's love seriously makes all of the difference in the world, because I mean, you know it does, because that's the only way that it's ever made any difference in us as Christians, is God loving us. Yeah, it really is only his love that can change people. But how it can change people, like, it's crazy. And so yeah, I really like that reminder that we're called to love people, like we're especially called to love our enemies. But then I really love how beautiful it is seeing that get turned around, discovering something lovely in them, and like them, yeah, being transformed by true love and learning to love that way also. I don't know, you can just like find a lot of eternal truth in fairy tales and in fantasy, and that's why I really like reading it. And also like Snow White in a way is also a picture of that, because it's like she was there and the dwarves are like, don't let anybody in the house, don't take anything from anybody. And then as soon as she's by herself, like, what does she do? This evil person comes up and tempts her and it's like, take the fruit and eat it. And she's like, okay. She eats it and she dies. I mean, she fell asleep, so she wasn't technically dead, but also, like, that's also the way that happened in the Bible. It was like, she didn't actually, like, die, but she, like, died spiritually. And yeah, that was the beginning of spiritual death. Yeah, she needed her prince to come and kiss her and wake her up. That's what Jesus does for us. We meet him and like he calls us back to life. So there you go. That's the stuff that I've learned from fairy tales, and I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts. I don't know if you have any other lessons that you've learned from fairy tales. Comment and tell me, because I'm honestly really interested. Stupid or true, because you know I enjoy both. I don't know if I'm just crazy, but I do find a lot of God in like fairy tales and fantasy stories. And so maybe I'm just like completely alone in this, and that's just a special way that he's given me for me to be able to find him, a special way that I'm meant to see him in this world. But I don't know, like if you've ever noticed anything like that, I'd be really interested to hear about it, so please tell me. I guess that's it, so thank you for watching, and goodbye until more interesting things happen. So long.